Hello friends, how are you doing? I hope that you're doing fantastic and amazing. In this video, I would like to talk about a life shaped by the fear of the Lord. And we are going to be in Daniel chapter 1, verses 8 to 20. There are many things that we can learn in this passage about holiness, about the pursuit of holiness, about the fear of the Lord. First, we're going to talk about the pursuit of holiness. In verse 8, it says, "But Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and wine. He asked the chief official for permission not to defile himself this way." For a little bit of context, so Daniel was one of the Israelites they deported from Israel to Babylon. And at that time, the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, chose a lot of the Israelites for them to train so they could serve in his kingdom, they could serve in his palace. So, and also he provided food for these young men so they could eat and they could be well nourished. So when it's time for them to serve in his kingdom, they can be ready, they can be well shaped, they can be well nourished, so they can do a great job in his kingdom. But Daniel decided not to eat the food that the king provided. The food the king provided were not in the will of God for him. Because at that time, the Israelites had a lot of regulations to follow if they wanted to please God. They had to pay close attention on what they eat and what they drink. They could not eat any kind of food, they could not drink any kind of drink. And also the food that the king provided for these young men were also offered to other gods. It would have been very bad for Daniel to eat the food that the king provided. So he decided not to eat the food that the king provided. In verse 9 it says, "Now God had caused the official to show favor and compassion to Daniel. But the official told Daniel, 'I am afraid of my lord the king, who has assigned your food and drink. Why should he see you looking worse than the other young men your age? The king would then have my head because of you.'" At that time, the kings had a lot of power. They could do whatever they want with someone's life. So even though the chief official wanted to give Daniel the favor of not letting him eating the food that the king provided, he had to be very cautious about his decision, because that could mean giving his life away. In verse 11 it says, "Daniel then said to the guard whom the chief official had appointed over Daniel, Ananias, Mishael, and Azariah, 'Please test your servants for 10 days. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then compare our appearance with that of the young men who eat the royal food, and treat your servants in accordance with what you see.' So he agreed to this and tested them for 10 days. So even though the chief official mentioned to Daniel that it would be very hard for him to do that, because that could mean giving his life away, Daniel kept searching a way not to eat the food that the king provided. He talked to the guard who was in charge of him. He asked him, "Can you test us for 10 days? Just give us vegetables and water to drink." Daniel and his friends were not easy about it. They were all in. They were very diligent about it. They were very diligent about the spiritual walk with the Lord. They were very diligent about the faith. They were very diligent about the holiness. They were all in. So many times, us as Christians, we say that we want to live for God. We say that we want to walk according to the will of God, but we won't do anything for it. We just sit down and say, "Yes, I want to live for God." Sometimes it takes hard work. Sometimes it takes a lot of discipline if we want to live for God, if we want to do the will of God. They have to discipline themselves. I believe that the food of the king was super good. It would have been very enjoyable for them to eat. But they had to discipline themselves, saying, no, I'm not gonna eat that food. And also the life of Daniel and his friends were in danger as well. Because if the king comes to know that they refused to eat the food that he provided, their life would be in danger. But they risked it all. They were all in, saying, no, I'm not gonna eat the food that can defile me, the food that can put me in a condition where I can't really have a good relationship with God. I don't want to violate the regulations that I need to follow so I can be in the will of God, so I can truly live for God the way He wants me to live. They were all in. Are you? Are you all in? Am I? Let's not just say, yes, I want to live for God. I want to do the will of God. Let's work for it. Let's go all in. Let's discipline ourselves. Let's spend time with the Lord. Let's also read. Let's read our Bibles. Let's fast. Let's spend time in the presence of God if we truly want to live for Him. Let's be in a community of godly people. Daniel was not by himself. He had 3 friends who stood up with him. He was in a community. He was in a community who had the same vision as him. Let us be a part of a godly community. If we want to pursue holiness, yes, let's go all in. Don't take it easy. Let's go all in. And secondly, the pursuit of holiness creates intimacy with God. And this is the second thing that I would like to talk about. Of how our pursuit of holiness will create intimacy with God. It says in verse 15, at the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier and better nourished than any of the young men who ate the wild food. So the guard took away their choice food and the wine they were to drink and gave them vegetables instead. God moved. God did an amazing thing. They looked better and healthier than the other young men who eat the food of the king, the food that the king provided. God walked through their obedience, their faithfulness. He did an amazing thing. In verse 17, to continue, it says, to these 4 young men God gave knowledge and understanding of all kinds of literature and learning. And Daniel could understand visions and dreams of all kinds. At the end of the time set by the king to bring them into his service, the chief official presented them to Nebuchadnezzar, the king at that time. The king talked with them, and he found none equal to Daniel, Ananias, Mishael, and Azariah. So they entered the king's service. In every matter of wisdom and understanding about which the king questioned them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and enchanters and his whole kingdom. They were 10 times better. God, because they had intimacy with God. It says in Proverbs, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Because they feared the Lord, they were in a pursuit of holiness. And that creates intimacy with God. And when someone has intimacy with God, they operate, they live in a level that is different than everybody else. The wisdom of the Lord was with them. God gave them knowledge and understanding. They had a close relationship with God. But at first, they had to discipline themselves. They had to be very disciplined and very diligent about their spiritual life, about their walk with the Lord. Am I? Are you? If you want to see God really moves in your life, you need to be disciplined. You need to discipline yourself. You need to be very diligent about your spiritual life, about your walk with the Lord. Are you? Please take your spiritual life, take your walk with the Lord very seriously. And this is what He wants for you. If there is one thing that I would like you to take of this message is that, if there is one thing that I would like you to take out of this message is that pursue holiness no matter what. Go all in. Go all in. Live for God no matter what. Stand up for your faith. Go all in. Don't be easy about it. Discipline yourself. Be diligent. Pursue holiness. And that will result in intimacy with God. Jesus Christ loves you. Thank you for watching this video.